In line with COVID-19 guidelines, Oyo government reopens schools. Oyo government begins palliatives on drainage clearing. The outbreak of the novel coronavirus pandemic necessitated the decision by the state and federal governments to close all schools to reduce the spread of the virus. Oyo state government in March ordered the closure of all worship centers and schools. Gradually, the government rolled out different phases for easing lockdown measures. Then Governor Seyi Makinde, after a meeting with the task force team in June, announced that the teachers were to resume to the schools on Monday, June 29, 2020, while students in critical classes including Primary 6, JSS 3 and SS 3 were expected to resume a week later on July 6, 2020. The state government then put machinery into action. About 372 heads of schools were trained by the Emergency Operations Center on the management of the COVID-19 containment procedures, while each of the school is to appoint an incident manager who will ensure compliance with the approved COVID-19 protocol, among other guidelines.
Government organized training in two places. Training of trainers took place first. Thereafter, the training of teachers by the trainers also followed up. So that is to get the teachers prepared for the resumption. And don't also forget that the arrangement of the government is that the teachers should resume ahead of the pupils. They resume a week before the students resume. And that had enabled them to get the schools ready and prepared for the children. We really have training how to handle and control this COVID-19 pandemic among the students.
So the 6th of July began like every other day. But for the students in Primary 6, JSS 3 and SS 3, it was the much-awaited day for resumption after the long compulsory holiday. To ascertain the guidelines were strictly adhered to, Governor Seyi Makinde, along with the Executive Secretary of Oyo State Universal Basic Education Board, SUBEB, Dr. Nureni Adeniro, the Commissioner for Education, Honorable Olalekan Lasukomi, and others inspected some schools. The Executive Chairman, Oyo SUBEB, Dr. Nureni Adeniro, as a matter of duty, embarked on an unannounced inspection to all schools under the agency. This visit, according to him, was to ensure that the head teachers comply with the COVID-19 guidelines handed down to them earlier.
The teachers have been trained before. We also reminded them that if they suspect or there is any child that is indisposed, they should immediately isolate such a child, then contact the appropriate authorities and the parents of the concerned child, so that they will do the needful. The students that have resumed, they are in terminal classes. This is to get them prepared for their common entrance in Primary 6, the GSS and SS 3 too, in secondary school section 2, to get them prepared for their final exams. So everything is ongoing well. We have been to part of Ibadan, we have been to Ogbomoso, and with what you have seen so far, I think the teachers also deserve some kudos for being compliant, and we also appreciate the parents for also supporting the government by making sure that their children are given nose mask while coming to school.
So our team decided to run a check on the schools. The Calabar Grammar School 1 was our first port of call. Students were seen arriving at the school gate, some on motorbikes while majority on foot. In line with the COVID-19 guidelines, both the students and the teachers were with face masks on. On arrival at the gate, everyone washed their hands using the bucket already stationed at strategic locations around the school. A teacher was also on standby to check their temperature, after which they were all allowed into the classroom. This process was carried out on anyone who was going into the school premises, and any student who was not with a face mask was sent back home. The students were well spaced as the head teachers maintained that they must not be more than 20 students in the classroom. The students expressed gladness to be back to school.
No, we are very fine resuming back to school because we'll be able to continue with our lessons and to cover up with where we stopped because of the upcoming exam. I'm very happy because they really tried for us to resume back to school, and I thank them.
I feel glad for resuming, and I really thank the government for allowing us to resume because we've forgot a lot of things. Some students didn't remember what the teacher taught them since 4 months ago. So the resumption now, they are going to cover our back, and the students are going to read for the upcoming exam.
I'm happy, and then thanks to your state government because we were able to prepare very well for our upcoming examinations.
We moved on to Calabar Grammar School too. The story was not different there. Hand washing spots had buckets filled with water and soap placed at strategic locations. The seating position for staff and students was well spaced. But what appeared very interesting here is the dedication of the school head teacher, Mrs. Salami. She said in spite of the temperature check carried out at the school entrance, she takes her time to move round the classes to carry out same checks on the students.
I've discussed with the teachers. We have class order inside among the students in the class. This class order, they are in charge of any student that remove the face mask or that move from this place to another place or go out without taking permission from the warder. Also, their class teachers, they are giving them close monitoring against all these rules. For instance, by 11 o'clock, they will come out for vitamin D, the sun. So we did this yesterday, and we shall be doing it like that continuously. There are many things that we are coping with, and our students are coping too. They are doing fine. You can see them in the class, and the learning is going on smoothly.
At Islamic High School, Orita Basharu Ibadan, delegates from the Ministry of Education were already within the premises on the same mission to monitor strict compliance to the COVID-19 guidelines. Led by the principal, Mr. Fasasi, the team moved from one class to the other, making necessary adjustments where required. The resumption for both the teachers and students is indeed a welcome development.
I'm so grateful for the government for reopening this school. While I was at home, I was praying to God because this COVID-19 is really a bad thing. So when we resumed the school, they told us that we should use our face mask, and we know it is for our own benefit. So we have to follow the rules and regulations, and we are thanking the governor for the reopening of school.
Grateful for the government for reopening of school and the rules and regulations that they give us in school. Though it's very hard for us, but we thank God that we are doing it thanks to the government.
Some private schools also complied with the order to resume classes. Here they say the training organized earlier by the state government is quite helpful and will guide them on safety measures.
Yeah, we appreciate the government and the Ministry of Education for the training that was put in place. We attended, we have a certificate, and we have also orientated the parents and also the students, and they are complying to the directives. Are they having a necessary hand washing materials? We have a infrared digital thermometer. We have a face mask for all students and teachers. We're keeping social distancing and other precautionary measures to keep us safe. We're putting those things in place.
With the resumption of the critical classes, the Oyo State government, through the task force, has assured that by July 15, the state government would have reviewed the situation with the schools and come to a conclusion whether the remaining students would have to wait to resume the new session in September 2020. Still on the efforts of the Oyo State government stemming the spread of the coronavirus pandemic, Governor Seyi Makinde recently commissioned the upgraded Agbami Isolation Center located at Jericho in Ibadan. Actualizing the promise made to the people that it would ensure that health is affordable and accessible to all, Governor Makinde wasted no time in equipping the Olodo Isolation Center with state-of-the-art equipment when the pandemic broke out. Under directive of the governor, Professor Tim Tokbalunge and other members of the task force team renovated and equipped the Awe Isolation Center, even as the Shaki Isolation Center is at the moment at almost 80% completion. The governor, on arrival at the Agbami Isolation Center, was accompanied on the trip by his deputy, Engineer Raul Folanio, and other top government functionaries. Governor Makinde, after inspecting the center, stated that the welfare of frontline workers in the battle against COVID-19 will remain top on his administration's agenda.
We didn't know there will be COVID-19 pandemic.
That although the Agbami facility was commissioned at the twilight of the last administration, it wasn't equipped for proper use as an isolation center. According to him, the facility was commissioned as a tuberculosis center by the immediate past administration, but his government has upgraded it as an isolation center for COVID-19 patients.
This facility was commissioned at the twilight of the last administration before we came in. It was a TB center at that time. We didn't know there will be COVID-19 pandemic, but here we are dealing with COVID-19. Before the naysayers will go to town and say, well, again, Seyi Makinde is commissioning something that they did. Well, we give you credit for putting this together, even though it was commissioned when it wasn't ready. I came here and I went inside. There's nothing, absolutely nothing inside.
While noting that the outbreak of the pandemic has provided his administration the opportunity to strengthen its health care facilities, Governor Makinde stated that the building would serve the high-end members of the society who test positive to the virus and are in need of privacy.
You don't need to self-isolate now at home. You can come here if you're a high-end individual. And you also don't need to go hide at private hospitals where they don't really have the facility and also the resources, the personnel to ensure that you have adequate care. This has been upgraded now and is now an isolation center. We have an oxygen concentrator in there and you will get the type of care that you truly deserve.
The governor seized the opportunity to appreciate the people of Oyo State for their support so far. Then he urged them to see the development of the state as the business of all.
I want to thank the good people of Oyo State for your support for this administration. Yeah, if we look at where we're coming from, yeah, it's been a really challenging environment. When we started the year, we had high hopes, but now we have to shave off almost 35% of our budget for the year, simply because we're faced with a pandemic and also faced with economic meltdown. But in spite of all of that, with the support of the good people of Oyo State, we have been able to keep moving on.
The Agbami Isolation Center has now been renovated to accommodate single rooms per patient. It was also well equipped and fixed with oxygen concentrators. Flooding has remained the second deadliest of all weather-related hazards in Nigeria and has been detrimental in many other societies in most parts of the world because of the large numbers of fatalities and the costly damages to properties and human lives. Flooding arises from structural failures, heavy rainfalls, and a host of human-induced factors. The city of Ibadan, Oyo State, Nigeria, has a history of flood disasters. The most recent occurred on 31st of June 2020. Worried by the perennial flood disaster in the city, Governor Makinde recently commissioned the newly rehabilitated and refurbished Elele Dam. The project is one of the many investments in flood control assets being implemented under the Ibadan Urban Flood Management Project, IUFMP, a project with funding and technical support from the World Bank.
We also have still quite a lot to do. We have the canalization of major rivers in the state. These are ongoing. Earlier in the year, officers from the State Ministry of Environment and Natural Resources embarked on the clearing of gutters, building of areas, because we know quite well that very soon the rain will be upon us, and then quite frankly the rains are here now. I believe we've done quite a bit to ensure that we do not continue to issue advisories when rain is about to fall.
So when the rains came down on the 31st of June, Governor Makinde saw the need to speed up the channelization of many rivers and dams across the state. Not one given to frivolity, Governor Makinde, as a matter of urgency, visited the areas which got flooded as a result of the heavy rains the previous night. The areas affected are Okiomi, Ikumakpai, Olodo and Sawmill Bridge, Onikpekpeye, along the Old Ife Road in Ibadan. After the inspection, he directed that the local chairman in the area commence work on the affected bridges immediately. Then he also directed the execution of a drainage master plan under the Ibadan Urban Flood Management Project within the next 18 months.
There's a drainage master plan for Oyo State under the Ibadan Urban Flood Management Project. They've been identified, and I think we have to keep taking them out one at a time. So I've asked the local government chairman for them to write for approval, and then work will start immediately on it. IUFMP, they are already dredging the river, so it's just to put a properly sized bridge across it, and that we will do. By the time we're able to get all the projects under the IUFMP executed, yeah, the issue will be dealt with, and it is only then that coming rainy season, won't be any problem for us.
Structures obstructing the waterways, Governor Makinde said they will be relocated, just as he admonished the people to desist from actions capable of aggravating flooding, including dumping of waste in river channels and waterways, which he said may result in the blockage of drainage and river channels.
Some of them we have to take them out, like at the main road at Olodo. Some people already moved out by themselves, so the government will enumerate such properties and then see how we can relocate those people in there.
With this directive, local government chairmen began to channelize line drainage in their environs. The areas affected by the flood, Olodo and Onikpekpeye Bridge, were also dredged to allow for free flow of water. Now, the team from the Ibadan Urban Flood Management Project is here at the Onikpekpeye Bridge to commence full drainage master plan that will check the perennial flooding in the vicinity and its environs.
What we have here is a structure, hydraulic structure. The culvert is not adequate. So as part of the problem that we will solve, apart from doing the channelization, we need to increase the capacity of this culvert. And so that is what we are trying to explore, because, the people that are going to do it, we have just signed them on. And so we are bringing them in to come in as quickly as possible to start the work. So they are going to increase the capacity here to 3 culverts, times 3 of what we have here. And then the underpass, at the express, the bus culvert there too is inadequate. So they are going to double it. So what we are doing now is in line with the directives of His Excellency. We want to ginger the contractor to start the work as quickly as possible, having in mind that we just signed last month and that we want them to quickly start the work.
On the other side of the river are this set of people. For many of them, this place has served as workplace for over 30 years, and their source of livelihood has been threatened on many occasions when the place gets flooded. To them, a permanent solution sought by Governor Seyi Makinde will serve as a great relief.
Látọ̀hún yẹn ó débí ìṣẹ̀lẹ̀ afálọ́sẹ̀ express tó ń dà sí fẹ́ kíjọba ó sọ fún wa ni pé kán bá wa ṣe bíríìjì kán sì bá wa ṣe àárín kó clear àtìsàlẹ̀ dáadáa tán bá irú ìdọ̀tí yẹn tí wọ́n bá wa rọ̀ báyìí yóò clear yóò yé dà wá láàmú títí tí o tiẹ̀ tó gba bí kọjá ìwọ̀nba àǹfààní tá a bá ní bí àtàsìkò yóò rọrùn fún wa láti máa lò.
òjò tí ń dààmú bí gádà abẹ yẹn tí wọn bá ṣe bí wọ́n ṣe lè kọ́ ga dókè omi yẹn ń padà wá síbí ní ti ń dààmú gbogbo àwọn tá a wà ń bí gádà torí express yẹn ojú ihò yẹn ó ti kéré jù tìmọ̀ tí wọ́n bá ti tú ibẹ̀ yẹn tó bá ti fẹ̀ táàmù yẹn lọ bí oríṣi bíi 4 sí 5 bẹ́ẹ̀ tó ń lọ omi yẹn ò ní padà gbogbo ètí bá ń lọ ń bì gan ò ní gun orí bíríìjì mọ́ láti fi máa lọ.
ọ̀nà kan wà níbi ọwọ́ iwájú ó fún gan bí tí wọ́n kọ́kọ́ ṣe bóyá gbà tó dé òtí máa pọ̀ sí ìní àti kọ́kọ́ ṣe gádà tó ra bí àmọ̀ kékeré ní ara fi àmú wà níbi ọwọ́ ọ̀nù tó ṣe yí pé ó fún gan tí wọ́n bá ti lè lọ bá ní ó fún ẹ̀ ní ọ̀run yẹn tó dàbí gbà pé yóò tún lè fi.
àkíjọba kí wọ́n túbọ̀ tíra ẹ̀ kí wọ́n túbọ̀ tẹ̀síwájú ní túnṣe o wọ́n túnṣe gbà gbogbo kí wọ́n túbọ̀ wọ́ ọgbọ́n dá sí kó lè tí yíya yẹn kó lè dínkù ní o.
The Ministry of Works has done is to implore them to open up, dredge further the river so that it will accommodate more water, so that the flooding that we experience clogging the road, it will be reduced, at least as a palliative measure. So they have dredged further, to provide more space for the flood water. And so, in essence, that flooding that we saw last week, the palliative measure in terms of the dredging have addressed it substantially. But we are now looking at a more permanent situation. That's why we are bringing in the contractor as quickly as possible, so that the flooding will be, on a more permanent basis, be tackled and addressed.
Going by the words of the governor, once all of these projects are completed, it will ensure that these occurrences are taken care of and the people will have no need to be worried during the rainy season.